So this video is about when fossil fuels make sense in airplanes. So petroleum-based fuels are what power most of the aircraft in our country. It might be worth noting mankind had some abilities to fly before the Wright brothers' famous first flight. They had balloons, primarily, but those were invented well before the Wright brothers flew over Kitty Hawk. So why are the Wright brothers so celebrated? Because it was the first motorized flight. And following their first successful flight, motorized planes fueled by gasoline quickly evolved, becoming more and more advanced at a rapid pace. So why did the fossil fuel-based internal combustion motor quickly become the standard? Because of the rapid speeds at which they could spin and provide power to the propeller. And later, of course, jet engines provided even more power. Without getting too detailed on the science of flight, let me just say that planes aren't exactly engineered to have transmissions like cars. It's the thrust and power generated by the propeller from the motor that enables them to take off, go down the runway, take off, and continue flight in the air. Now, to get a motor that can spin a propeller fast enough to make all this happen, you really need a gas-powered engine. An electric motor, I'm sure you can find an electric motor that would spin just as fast. But there's definitely going to be a trade-off. You're going to need to have a lot of weight devoted to batteries. And you're going to need to have some awfully powerful batteries. And it's going to be tough to get a lot of range out of those batteries. If you were going to use exclusively an electric-powered motor over a gas-powered motors, you would still probably be well advised to have some sort of external power source to either charge the batteries or help generate electricity, maybe a generator, I don't know. I know they've experimented with solar-powered aircraft, which would use solar panels, obviously, to help charge the batteries to keep the electric motors running. But that technology has not been used. It is not mainstream. That's experimental technology still at this point. So let's talk briefly about how airplane engines typically work in smaller aircraft used by private pilots. Their gas-powered engines are generally, as far as I know, air-cooled. So you're not going to have, a radiator that might spring a leak and start dripping water, cause the engine to overheat in mid-flight. Their engines have 2 spark plugs per cylinder. So if one fails, there's a backup. And the spark is provided by magnetos, which is not commonly used in cars anymore. The magnetos are mechanically powered by the engine. So even in the event of a total electrical failure in the aircraft, battery goes out, alternator goes out, you can still have magnetos producing power to power the engine until you can land somewhere. Also, the fuel system is gravity-fed. That's a technology that was used on the old Ford Model A's, except instead of the gas tank being up by the engine. On planes, they're in the wings, so the fuel will flow down to the engine, gravity fed. Should also probably be mentioned that checking the magnetos is part of the pre-flight check before takeoff. There's a switch on these planes to turn the magnetos off and on to make sure they're working. There's a lot of simplicity to this system compared to, say, the way engines are powered and receive their fuel in modern automobiles. However, these gasoline engines in airplanes and the way they work has proven to be a very safe method. Planes have very low accident rates. And the fact that this technology has proven itself to be fairly safe is part of the reason why it's still in use. Maybe someone will invent electrical motors and batteries someday that can overcome the current challenges in aircraft that will power planes like these just as efficiently as gas engine and have lots of range. But we're not there yet, and we haven't solved the issue of what is the backup way to get power. I explained how the gasoline engines have magnetos that can, in theory, still power an engine. But what if it's electric? What are you going to do? Now, if it's so practical at this point to power small, privately owned airplanes like Cessnas by gas, just imagine the challenges that would have to be overcome to power commercial jumbo jets by something other than fossil fuels. This is why, for now, fossil fuels make sense when it comes to motorized flight. Thank you for watching, and please click like and subscribe.